Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Cars and Coffee with me, Kenny Brown, and we have a great lineup this morning. I'll tell you about that in a minute, but if you're new to Cars and Coffee, this all started with people just wanting to get into my head. So what I do is try to answer questions and talk tech based on my 40 plus years of professional motorsports and building great cars. And if you're new and you're looking in the back and see that kind of like trusty old toolbox, that toolbox may have been to just every major racetrack in North America and into Canada several times. So, and I still use it every day. That's kind of what sets me apart from everybody else, is I actually know how to work on cars. So this morning, oh boy, we're going to talk about, Rich has been getting a lot of questions on suspension lately and geometry and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to do just a little bit of just a real quick history on the AGS, my Advanced Geometry Suspension Systems, AGS, and talk about a little bit of history and the philosophy behind why my suspension works so good and it'll drive circles around everybody else. Let's see, we've got, and also as far as that, people say I talk about the rear grip kit a lot because we kind of focus on that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the front grip kit this morning for both SN95 and S197. And let's see, we got some really good questions. Also, as far as upcoming workshops, April 6th through 8th is the Transform Your Driving Experience Workshop. This time we put it into 3 nights to keep it a little more compact. I'll probably go about an hour and a half each night. So be sure to sign up. There should be a clicky thing somewhere that you can sign up. So Steve here this morning, Brad's there. Let's see. And always YouTube, like, subscribe, click the bell, ding, ding. And then Facebook, like and share with your buddies. And also start if anybody wants to know about what we're talking about today, and start a share party, a watch party. You can click a little thing and invite people. It's really, really easy. And of course, don't forget all those thumbs up. And Jerry has on my notes, if you're just joining us, I just said that, I'm Kenny Brown. So I think what we're going to do, the subject today is going to be a philosophy behind the AGS, something in the front grip kit. And then we'll talk about kind of a special offer here in a minute, and then the Transform Your Driving Experience Workshop. But I want to start with the questions because I'm going to use the questions to kind of lead in to what I'm talking about. So the first question from Randy, this is a really good question, said, how do you prepare for an unfamiliar track? Great question. Lost my little prop. Here's the thing. Now, in professional motorsports, we go all over the country, race a bunch of different tracks. And it's always, the drivers, sometimes they're tracks they've never been at before. So my recommendation or suggestion on how to prepare for a new track, first of all, get online, see what the track looks like. Get a general layout of the track, and then see if there's videos like everywhere now. Try to get a video of some cars going around that particular track. and remember, everybody's got different driving styles, so don't really focus on this particular driving style, but you can kind of ride along with people, see how the track goes. The other little trick, and I do this every race, every one of my race cars in national racing, is I take and I get a little bitty track map, and I actually tape it to the steering wheel. And the reason for that is, if we're doing a lot of traction, sometimes the drivers, they're focused on driving, and they kind of, sometimes they get tracks confused in their head. It just happens if you're doing it a lot. And when they pull in, like in practice, and talking to me that, the car's doing this and that, this turn and that turn, if there's a map on the steering wheel and they can point to that turn, I know exactly what turn they're talking about and exactly how to fix what they're looking, how to improve what they're looking for. And as far as every time that you're sitting there in the pit getting ready to go out, just take a glance down that track map, so it's burned into your head. So that's kind of how I would prepare. Just look up the track map, see as many videos as you can, and tape a little bitty track map right on your steering wheel so you can always reference it. And even when you're sitting there afterwards looking down and thinking, I can do this one better, or that one's not so good, boy, I really can nail this turn. So that's the best thing you can do. This kind of leads into the same sort of track thing, is how you prep, sleep, and eating before track time. Okay, that's pretty simple. sleep is super important. I get a good night's sleep, and also the first few days before, be sure that you just eat well. Just eat well, just eat good food. Cut out sugars and breads, like white breads. Just because I don't like them, and I think they don't make you think very well. And absolutely, positively, no alcohol, not even a little bit. And I'll tell you the story behind that. When we're racing on my teams, there's no drinking or beer until Sunday night. After everything's done, because at professional racing, it's a job. You don't drink on the job in your job, and I don't expect my guys to drink on their job. But Sunday night, all bets are off. Whatever. But here's the thing. I'll go back. I can't remember how many years ago this was, but it was. Gosh, it doesn't matter. A long, long time ago. We were going to Road America for a track day, and I had some business to do just north of Chicago. So I left early, and I did my business, and I was going to meet the crew up at Elkhart Lake in the evening. Well, I got there about the time we were supposed to show up, but they were running late. So unfortunately, I mean, I ran the shop for Skip Barber at Road America for a full season. I lived in Sheboygan Falls, which is right next door. So I mean, I knew everybody in Elkhart Lake. And ran into some of my friends at Seepkins. If you've never been to Seepkins, it's magical. And I just thought, well, I just have one beer. One beer led to two, so I had a couple beers. And I thought, well, that's not too bad. The next day, I drove like crap. I mean, I just missing apexes. I just was sloppy. So I ate really well that night, got to bed early, got a good night's sleep, and the next morning, I was right on target again. So it doesn't take much alcohol the night before to kind of impact how you drive the next day. Don't know what the science is behind that, but that's just my experience. So eat well, get a lot of sleep. If you're traveling a long ways to a track, try to get to bed early. I mean, sleep is the most important thing. You need your body to be rested because you're going to work the hell out of your brain and body the next day. So that's how I do it, and how I recommend you do it. Now, Angie Parrish has a really good question. Angie says, can you give some in-depth pre-race track event preparation, like things to check every time, pre-event checklist, general maintenance, and tips and suggestions for track cars? That is such a good question. I'm going to make that week's tech subject. So that's what we're going to talk about next week is getting ready for the track and things to do, and a little bit of what you do when you get there. So along those lines, let's see. I got to throw this in there. We'll be talking about tire temperatures, and this is my tire temperature sheets we've been using for years. And Carrie tells me that anybody that makes a purchase through the end of the month actually gets some tire tablet of tire temp sheets for free. You can't beat free.
So the whole tablet.
Huh?
The whole tablet.
Yeah, the whole tablet. Okay, I got that in. So let's. Here we go. This is another good one, Danny Oliver. This is a really good question. Does replacing the stock filter system with a cold air kit really increase horsepower by 25% or more? Okay, I ran hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars on the dyno in my old shop, and I mean, horsepower is so relevant to each individual car. Is there 25 horsepower? Sometimes. It just kind of depends, but you're not going to get that without a tune. It's just. Let me put it this way: with we were building we did build a lot of boss cars in 12 and 13, 14. All we did to a boss Mustang was put a cold air kit on, headers and exhaust, and a tune. And we would see anywhere, depending on the car, because all cars are different, anywhere from I'd say 433 to 440 rear wheel horsepower. And you do the math, and that's somewhere 500 to 510 horsepower. So what, between those three things, we picked up almost 60 horsepower. So it's kind of like Yeah, do it. I mean, if you think about doing cold air kit, not doing cold air kit, do a cold air kit. It does make a difference. Whether it's 25 horsepower or not, I mean, it depends on the car. And also, I mean, for the ones we use, they float so much air, they need to have a tune, and we can actually get a cold air kit that has a little tuner that comes with it, just plug in and fix. But I'm going to let you be the judge on what you think about a cold air kit. Now, I don't have everything I want, so I just grabbed what was off the shelf. Now this is the exhaust system, and I got too big of a thing at the bottom of the page. Okay, this is the exhaust system off of Cliff's FR500S. It's a 3-valve, it's got a big wide thing right there. But it's basically, it was kind of like the cold air kit from Ford back then. They just put a cone filter on an intake. You can see that the intake makes twists and turns and bumpy and lumpy. Now this is for a 550, but this is a JLT cold air kit. Now, you tell me, which one do you think is going to flow the most air? I mean, that's big and it's smooth. This is, like I say, for a 550. We got cold air kits for all the S197s and 550s, and it absolutely positively it makes more impact than changing the throttle body. Throttle bodies, everybody think, oh, big throttle body, it's going to go faster. Not necessarily the case. I mean, the intake manifold from Ford is tuned around a certain throttle body and volume and velocity. And if you put too big of a throttle body in, you can actually lose plenum velocity in the intake manifold, which kind of actually hurts horsepower. So, I mean, throttle body is something that you do after you do other things. Cams or intakes, something else that'll help that just by itself. It really doesn't do a lot. It's a few horsepower maybe. I wouldn't recommend it. I go for a cold air kit and your stock throttle body. Okay, so that's, you make the call. You can see it. It's well worth it. Do it. Call us up. We can get them. I like the JLTs. They got a really good design, and we can get tuners with them. So it makes it really slam dunk type thing. And it's going to make 25 horsepower. Yeah, maybe. Just kind of depends on your car and what else is done to your car. But it is going to make an increase in performance. James found 45 horsepower to dyno by changing his filthy air filter. That's a good point. Filthy air filter is the key word there, because when your air filter's filthy, it's like trying to breathe. Cars need to breathe. All the horsepower comes. An engine is nothing more than a big compressor. Air in, compress, bang, air out. The more air you get in, the bigger the bang. The more air you get out, the more horsepower you make. So that's why all the horsepower we focus on is in top of the motor. The bottom of the motor, you can lose horsepower, but you really can't gain a lot of horsepower on the bottom end. But you can lose horsepower. Excuse me. Unless, of course, you do like a stroker kit, and you're going to pick up some torque. But all that, like on Cliff's car, we did CNC cylinder heads, hot rod cams, Ford Racing intake manifold, and the throttle body, because we got all the rest of the stuff to go with it. So filthy is, you can make power just with a cold air kit, though. I'd recommend it. Okay, now we're getting back to Matthew had the absolute best question of the week. And I'm going to feature on that because it's a really, really important question. This question is, what about the RPM Act? Everybody in our world should know about the RPM Act, and everybody in our world should support the RPM Act. What is the RPM Act? Okay, the EPA is, not very bright, but what they're doing is they're going to start interpreting that their interpretation is illegal to take a street car and turn it into a track car or a race car, same thing with motorcycles and trucks. It's illegal to sell performance equipment like exhaust systems and superchargers. It's kind of like, they're doing a very broad and misguided interpretation of the EPA rules. So what the RPM Act is to Congress, I'll read down little things here, is banning race cars, which includes track cars, motorcycles, and pickups. It's protect your right to convert, RPM protects your right to convert a street car into a track car or a dedicated race car. It clarifies and confirms that it is legal to market and install racing and high performance aftermarket equipment. So the SEMA, which is kind of like the trade organization for the performance aftermarket, has really putting on a big push to push the RPM Act. And we're trying to really, Congress has to vote on the RPM Act so the EPA doesn't take us all out to lunch. And there is a link, too far. There is a link right here. There's a link for the SEMA. I think we're going to post it up. Yeah. Click the link. There's instructions on there on how to send your Congress people a letter saying vote for the RPM Act. It's important. So please go to the website, click it on, sign up. Have all your friends do the same thing. And it's really important that we kind of save our right to build race cars, is what it boils down to. Save our right to build race cars, save our right to buy high performance parts and install them on our cars. So everybody just please sign that. And we'll also put the link up in our Facebook page and also in the Speed Therapy Society, which all the questions today came from the Speed Therapy Society. And remember, you can send in all the questions. No, you can send in questions live. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you've got questions today, please send them in. I'll get to them later in the hour and see what I can answer. Okay, now we want to get back to talking about the AGS suspension system and the history behind it. Okay.
Are you waiting on me?
I'm waiting on you.
Talk about your picture behind you.
Oh, I didn't talk. Artwork today is we got Dan Gurney up on the wall. One of my favorite photos. It's driving into the sun 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1965. It's kind of cool. You see his lace glove and his watch. He's blocking the sun. I know it's sunset because the headlights are still covered. So, okay, if we can blow that up and reduce that thing at the bottom.
Well, then I have to go up.
Oh, we have to do it a different way. Joe Johnson's there, I see. Let's see, Hollins. I saw some other names that popped up, but I don't get all the scrolls on my screen. Terry gets all of them. I only get a few. Okay, here we go. Let's put that up. Okay, my advanced geometry suspension system actually started at the end of the '86 season when I was building, engineering, and managing the Saline endurance race team at SCCA Pro Endurance Racing. And I mean, Mustangs, the Fox Mustangs, were a challenge to turn into a race car. The brakes were small, the suspension geometry was bad. And I'd hooked up with a guy I knew in the Mustang group at Ford, and he worked in the evenings. We talked back and forth on different, moving things around, improving the geometry of cars that they would turn. And I really couldn't do anything about it until '87 when Steve, with his magical connections, came up with 3 K members that were virgin, no holes in them. And I all the stuff that Mike and I had figured out, I put into these K members and made them look like factory fresh, brand new. But they actually had a lot of geometry that really helped the cars turn. So that kind of like started the whole advanced geometry suspension system. And it's like each generation from the original is an improvement on the previous. It improves on the best parts of the previous and makes it even better. So and here's how it kind of goes in chronological order. AGS 1.0 was a carryover from the Saline R race cars. revised K-member geometry, and we had, because the chassis needed stiffness, we added the double cross subframe connectors, first to market with that. We added jacking rails, first to market with that. We added the anti-squat traction bracket, their 3-point strut tire brace, matrix brace, first to market on all those. And the anti-squat traction brackets, first to market on those. That was back in about 90, 91, 92 maybe. So all of those parts have been copied heavily ever since, but they were designed around, front geometry, add some anti-squat to the back, and then stiffen the chassis. Because stiffer chassis means car handles better. And then in 93, we kind of upped it a little bit. We carried over the front geometry, except I changed it into what I call fixed strut. And, that happened one night when I was working on a car, and it was a gas charged shock strut. And I was moving it out of the way to work on something. I kind of pulled it down and moved it over the side. And I noticed that the angle of the rotor was really strange. It was like a lot of positive camber, and put the other way, a lot of negative camber. So I sat down and I started plotting before computers. So I started plotting a whole bunch of different camber curves, just moving the top of that strut around until I found the spot that gave the absolute best. It increased negative camber on the outside tire, increased positive camber on the inside tire. So that's when we came up with the fixed strut design. And back then we used the onion heads. I don't know if you remember these onion heads from the SVO Mustangs at the top rather than the factory bushings. And when they ran out, then we switched over to our own, we call it Caster Plus, because by moving it all the way back, we get more caster than anybody else, and it just helps improve the geometry. And then we added a panner bar at the back, the first to that, but the panner bar was not to center the axle, it was to move the roll center down. If you do the geometry on a live axle, Fox or SN95, the rear roll center ends up like, I can't remember, 18 inches high, like almost in the trunk. And what that does is that makes the back of the car want to really roll around freely and makes the back of the car loose. So using the panner bar, we're not using it to center the axle because it's got splayed control arms. We're using it to move the roll center down, because where that panner bar crosses the center line of the car is the roll center. And that's where in Trans Am cars, we ran the roll center at the bottom of the diff by putting a Watts link horizontal on the bottom of the differential. So that was something that we added in AGS 2.0. Now, AGS 3.0, we actually introduced, I can't remember if it was 2000 or 2001 SEMA show, one of the two, on Kermie, my wonderful green track car that was amazing to drive. But we actually took the time, what we learned from all the suspensions previous, we actually did a clean sheet of paper, tubular K-member, control arms, and then improved the rear geometry. So we had a complete package, so to speak, to go with, we had the front suspension to go with the rear suspension. And then we also in 2001 came up with AGS 3.5, which was specifically for the SVT Mustang Cobra with IRS. And I pretty much fixed the geometry in the IRS. It did a couple of nasty things in stock trim, and I found that out testing FR500 with Ford Racing down at Road Atlanta. At a certain point, the car got loose, and I figured out what it was. We fixed that all in geometry. Geometry is something we learn a lot about in the Speed Therapy Academy. So if you want to learn more about that, think about joining the academy.
Also, you really improved the rear wheel hub.
Oh yeah, I mean
we have a kit for that.
Yeah, I mean we also improved the rear axle hop. I mean everything we do with the IRS is nobody else in the aftermarket supports the IRS. Nobody else understands it. Nobody else has to know to make the geometry work. So we're still supporting 9904 Cobras because it's, I know how to make them work. And this is we're going to talk front suspensions. This is the front grip kit for an SN95. And it's a tubular K-member, control arms, and that's a very unique design, and I'll show you one of those in a minute. And the caster plates, Caster Plus, to get the extra caster in there, and the front sway bar. And that's pretty much the front grip kit for an SN95. So, yeah, and that Well, actually, I'm looking at the picture. We've actually upgraded both the K member and as far as changing some of the strength points and also the control arms, which I can show you one right now. Okay, here's an SN95 control arm. And you can see it's kind of a unique design. Nobody else builds a control arm like this. You know, everybody else is kind of like, some controllers don't even have a cross brace on them. They're just a couple of bars, which is not particularly good. There's no strength in that. And other people just kind of put a bar at the bottom, which is, it's better. The bar needs to be really close to the bushings though, to make a full triangulation and make it strong. But this design is so unique. We actually get two triangulations. Okay, we get a triangulation here, and then we get triangulation here. So we get two triangulations. This thing is super, super strong. And it's the only thing I like it in the aftermarket. And since the picture, we've upgraded to bigger, stronger bushings. Okay, back to AGS 4.0. Time to drink coffee. Yep. Okay, in 2005, I was absolutely elated with the S197 Mustang. I mean, the suspension that Ford put in that car just made my life so much easier. I mean, it was like a dream come true. The front control arms, rather than being splayed, they were parallel to the center line of the car, which gives it makes it much easier to correct and get improved geometry with a parallel control arm versus a splayed like in S95. And the back was magical too, because it was parallel 3-link with a panel bar. Actually, isn't really parallel. The lower control arms are splayed from the factory, but in the rear grip kit, we changed that. We unsplay the lower control and make it parallel to the center line. And we've been doing that for a long time. I'm starting to see a few other companies out there doing that same thing. It'd be interesting if you asked them why they did that and what their answer is. Yeah, because it would be interesting to hear what their answer is. The real reason I do that is to have an impact on the rear roll axis. Make the point of conversion infinity, which means the roll axis follows the lower parallel lower control arms, which is what we're looking for. I don't know if other people would tell you the same thing or not. So anyway, we got the tubular front K member, which we're going to talk about in a minute, which all the geometry I had in 3.0 got even better in 4.0. And of course, the rear geometry, the rear grip kit, anybody has ever put one in their car will tell you it is amazing. I mean, it really, really works. I mean, it just settles down the back of the car, and the two together, there's only 3 parts of my suspension: the rear grip kit, the front grip kit, and springs and shocks. Because I engineer systems. You know, it's all about systems. And with the S197, I could do everything I wanted to do in geometry. Because my philosophy behind AGS 4.0, you know, expands on the previous 1, 2, and 3. And the thing about, you know, on track, in racing, the best opportunity to have overtake somebody is under braking. So one of the first things I did is I engineered anodyne in the front and a squat in the back, so that you can brake a lot later. Now Mustang, you look at it, it's a drag racing car, big V8 motor in the front, light back end with a live axle. So the strength is straightaway, and the weakness is stop and turn. So by doing all the anodyne and squat, all of a sudden you can brake a lot later, like 2-3 car lengths later, which meant you just made that straightaway longer, and you can actually outbrake a lot of people. And then with the front geometry, I could get everything in on the front geometry, so when you do brake later, you go much deeper into the corner than you normally would. And when you turn the wheel, I mean, front turns. So you can get the car to rotate pretty quickly. And, you know, getting around the corner is a weak part of the Mustang. So if it rotates really quickly, and with the front roll center up, the rear roll center down, you don't have to wait nearly as long to get back to the gas. So you're, you know, feeding gas in before the apex. So you carry a lot more speed off the corner, but much higher corner exit speed. So the corner exit speed, you just made the next straightaway longer. You know, longer straightaway, shorter corners. That's the whole philosophy behind AGS 4.0, and it works exceptionally well. I mean, there's some videos out there of me, in Ruby, my 2012 track car, and I chased down some pretty potent cars, and it's just because the car carries so much mid corner, so much corner exit speed, brakes later. It's a great suspension. But to make that even better, again, we always improve on everything. We're just introducing, in very limited introduction, AGS 4.5, which Speed Therapy Academy people were the first to see that. It's a new rear suspension that's beyond belief. And it's so good. I've been working on it for years and years. That it's applied for a patent, so it's patent pending. But the first batch, pre-production batch, the Speed Therapy Academy guys bought it out, gone. And then we introduced it. The next introduction was the Speed Therapy Society people, and again a closed introduction. And we're at 15, 16.
No, 27.
Oh God, I guess we've sold 27. So because of the response that we're getting, we're actually going to push back the general introduction to the media and the general public, just simply because we're afraid that the response is going to be so huge. We're already getting overwhelmed, so we're going to push that back a while. But when you get to see it, it kind of blow your mind. So anyway, that's AGS 4.5, but let's take a look at the front grip kit. Okay, here's the front grip kit, and it is pretty darn basic. It's a K-member and control arms. Now, you really can't buy the K-member or control arm separately unless you're planning on putting it together at some point, because they're both engineered to work together. I mean, the control arms we have won't work with a stock K-member because you won't get a geometry. And, a stock control arm isn't really going to work with the K-member because, again, you're not going to get the geometry. So, I mean, all it is the K-member, control arms, and the bump steer tie rod ends, which you can see they're OE style bump steer tie rod end, which means you don't have to figure anything. You just put it on. It's quiet. It's as durable as a factory one right out of the box. So that's kind of like the front grip kit that we don't really talk a lot about. Let me show you one of the front control arms. Okay, this is the front control arm off of S197, and you can see this baby is stout. I mean, this is heavy duty, heavy wall tubing, triangulated, gusseted, and extended ball joint. Extended ball joint helps bring the roll center up. That's something we were the first to do back a long, long time ago with our original geometry and AGS. But we wasn't any ball joints available, so what we did was use a stock or ASA ball joint with a longer shaft and adapted it to the Mustangs. We were the first to do long shaft ball joints, and now they're pretty prevalent. But you can see, and of course, anything that we do, everything I do is serialized. If you're looking to buy some parts from somebody, they say it's Kenny Brown. If it doesn't have a serial tag, then it's not genuine. And we started doing this years ago. You can see we're up to, 70,000. We started doing this years and years ago simply because all the stuff I could market, everybody was copying it. And most of it wasn't a very good copy because people didn't know why they were copying it. They just copied it. So that's when we started putting a serial tag on so it's genuine. It's genuine Kenny Brown. And something is really important is these are the pins for the control arm bushings. And I use urethane. I don't like Delrin for the street. Delrin is for racing, not for street cars, not even for track cars. We use urethane, and a few years back we switched over to black urethane because it's silicone impregnated. But we always ship the pins separate because you need to. This is a handy dandy little tube of grease, and this is nasty stuff. And you get it on your fingers, it just doesn't come off. I think somebody said WD-40 will take it off, but if you got gloves, use gloves because it's super sticky. And it's super, but you need to put it inside the bushing, but inside the bushing, and then you push your pins through, and then you want just a real light coating on the outside, a super light coating. You want to get all the excess off, because if you have too much on the outside, that it's a dust magnet. So you want just a super light coating on the face so it moves well in the K-member. So that's kind of the AGS front suspension system and a little history of how it all came together. So I think I've pretty much got through what I want to talk about. I think that was the last picture. Yep. That's it. Oh, I forgot. Oh, one more. Thank you. Part of AGS 4.0 is caster, maximum caster. So these are the caster camber plates. Remember, in AGS 3.0, we have caster plus, which is a fixed caster, and with maximum caster. And with these, what we do is we put maximum caster in. No matter what it is, side to side, doesn't matter. Put all the caster it'll take, and then adjust the camber, based on the condition. So that's kind of like the other part of the AGS 4.0, and also an AGS 3.0 converts to coilover shocks, coilover struts. It's simply because it just takes a bunch of weight out, and it just spring on control arm. You have no control over the spring rate or ride height. So everything we do is coilover, and we actually have coilover specifically made to my shock data on shock dynos, and Strange makes them for us, but it's not their shock. It's their parts, but it's my valving strategy, and we've got for SN95 and Fox a great coilover package. We can only get the fronts in double adjustable, which is that's okay. But I tell people to leave the bump alone and just play with rebound if you're tuning the car, or call me and I'll tell you.
Actually, working close with getting a S197 that's more cost effective than.
Yeah, I carry a good note. We're working on trying to put together an S197 coilover with Strange, which would be a more cost effective option for people other than the JRZs are a premium shock, and man, what a great shock they are! Great shock. I mean, I think that's one of the keys that my late son Paul, in winning the GTS championship and probably World Challenge in 2011, is that great shock package, race shocks from GRZ. The race shocks are stupid expensive, but they've come out with an RS line which is far better tuned in to the street performance, track day, and club racer. And it's kind of like what I like about that is the RS series that are more. I mean, they're not cheap, but you get what you pay for. They're actually custom built for me in the Netherlands and then flown over. GRZ, if you look them up, their primary business is race shocks, and they sell a lot of super high-end race shocks. So the RS series that we use is kind of like really expensive race shocks, premium race shocks, kind of work down for the club guy and track day guy. Where a lot of the other like coilover shocks that are available are mostly kind of street shocks that are kind of tuned up. So that's why the GRZs are so good. We're working on with Strange to see if we can put together a coilover package for S197s, which would have the same front valving in the strut that I use in the SN95, and then the rear valving is going to be it's a different valving for a live axle, but for it's going to be for the new rear suspension, secret rear suspension. It's going to be a double adjustable. Because we have a really high spring rate to make the car, to balance the car with the new rear suspension. So we're working on those things, and we'll have them, if it works out, we'll have it for both live axle and the AGS 4.5. So that coming, we're working on it. It'll be, and it's kind of like, it's going to be a jump above our real popular street track package now is the Eastern RSS, which is spring rates are great and the shock valving is great. But it's, you've got some limitations. The shocks, rears are non-adjustable, and you're kind of stuck with the spring rate they have, where with the Strange, we'll be able to put any spring rate on we want. So that's coming. Okay, I think I got through everything.
3-day workshop.
3-day workshop. Transform your driving experience. April 6th through the 8th. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday 7 p.m. Eastern time, and you have to register. It's not one of these things you have to register for, because any of these things that we register for are it's a closed deal, just for our people. So you need to register for that. And then, of course, any of the Speed Therapy Academy people, they get to audit or attend any of the events that we do. They're automatically included. That's kind of a perk of the Speed Therapy Academy. Okay, and don't forget your special tire temperature offer. Pull up some of the sheets for next week. Any orders, get the tire temperature sheet, and we're going to talk about tire temperatures next week. So, how are we doing on questions today?
I am compiling. We are short Bridget today.
Oh, we're short Bridget. She's on her way to a Mustang event down in Tennessee.
Yep.
The Tail of the Dragon. So,
well, part of that. It's a week-long Mustang show.
It's a week-long Mustang event.
Maybe somebody knows what it is. I can't remember the name.
We can't remember the name. I'm sure somebody out there knows what it is, but she's down there enjoying herself, and we're working. So I don't think that's fair.
It takes a community to do this show, believe it or not. And we always have Bridget and Brad in the background, and sometimes we have Eric and Rich as well. And so Brad and I are the main people working the back end of the show, and Brad's internet is acting up. So it's kind of like just me hanging out there. So any links, we're trying to add some links for you, and I think he's starting to add a few. Again, we'll add the links for the RPM Act and also the registration link for the 3-day workshop, Transform Your Driving Experience workshop.
Okay.
But we have a number of questions here. And let me get back to them. And this is where Brad usually helps me too. He kind of sends me a little link. So I'm on my own here. So bear with us.
Ponies in the Smokies.
Ponies in the Smokies.
That's what it is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so Herstifer, question, is it worth it to only do a tune on a stock Gen 2 Coyote? Will it improve the car? Is it worth,
Yeah, the answer is yes. The level of improvement it's not going to be massive, but you can do things like improve throttle response. You can also, just speaking of throttle response, pedal max. Every car I build, I put the pedal max in. And what is pedal max? It's a little gizmo, plug and play. You unplug the gas, and the gas pedal accelerator is drive-by-wire in 197s. You unplug that and you plug in the pedal max, and it has a little adjuster dial 1 to 100. And what it does, it turbocharges your foot signal to the processor, to the throttle. You can get almost, if a lot of people complain about the lag when they're driving, throttle lag, it goes away. And it's like the 100% is so sensitive that I don't recommend using it if you're in a parking lot, because you touch the gas pedal and the car leaps. So in parking lots, I kind of turn it down so I don't kind of like run into things. Also, I turn it down for rain and snow. and yeah, I usually set mine about 60% most of the time. It really, like in Carrie's Edge, it really, really helps like getting on the interstate, because the throttle response is quicker, the downshifts are quicker. I mean, you just blend in, with all the fast-moving cars.
Yeah, hopefully Brad's putting a link up to that, because it's on our website, GMS.
Yeah, I mean, it's
wonderful.
Only one performance thing to your car, add the pedal max. That actually, in dyno testing, I don't have the exact information, that actually added torque and horsepower because the throttle's reacting so much faster. So, I mean, it's cheap performance. And what's it like, 3 something?
It's under 300.
Yeah, maybe if Brad's still there, he can put up the price. I mean, it's really reasonable. I recommend it to everybody. Everybody's got if you got drive-by-wire, you need a pedal max.
Yeah, I think this was an interesting one. You already attended to that one. And then make sure it's a cold air kit and not a hot air kit. True?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good point. I see pictures of all these cars, and they've got the air filter that just kind of comes out from the motor and just sits there in the engine bay. That would be called a hot air kit. Why? Because all it's doing is sucking hot air from the radiator. And I just roll over when I saw a picture of some turbocharged car, and they had the air inlets in the engine bay. All you're doing is sucking in hot air. It's the last thing you want to do. With a cold air kit, what I didn't show for the 550 cold air is it's got a whole box around it. It kind of separates it from the hot air, so it just draws in cold air or cool air.
And then Joe Johnson has a question. Should you close up your air box if you have a vented hood? Will the vented hood steal air from the air box?
No, it won't. Because the air in the air box, you got a lot of velocity in that intake, and it's going to be sucking air no matter what. Actually, it might even help. It might draw more air through into the box. So no, it's not going to hurt at all.
Okay. Okay, then I just ran across a comment. Again, here's the link to the RPM Act. You can probably do it while you're listening to the show. It's that easy. Just click on the link, and it's in the comments, SEMA.org/EPA-news. Again, SEMA.org/EPA-news. Okay, here we go. Another. Does the cold air system increase? I just bought a 2016.
Oh, and Wendy's asking, is there a rep I can talk to about PedalMax? Me, Rich? Yeah, just call in. We can get Brad. We can get you hooked up. Somewhere I've got traces on how the improvement is on pedal response. It makes a huge difference. On track cars, it's almost mandatory because you want quick reaction in your pedal, and it does it. It kind of blows your mind what it does. I strongly recommend it. We can just call into Rich, and we can get you hooked up.
Okay. So did we answer, Kenny? Does after the cold air system increase HP? I just bought a 2016. You kind of addressed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is actually S550. This is for I think a 19 or 20. Yeah. You take a look at this. And take a look at what's on your car and tell me which do you think is going to get the most air into the engine.
Okay. Cliff has, I'm just trying to stress this RPM Act. He said, yes, the RPM Act needs our support. Unless we act, anything we do with our cars and bikes will be illegal. Government bureaucrats do not support any modifications to toys. If you don't act, the government will. It's already happening in Cali. Good point,
there you
Cliff.
go.
Okay, Rory, my question is chrome moly suspension parts on the street limited by life of metal fatigue?
Say it's chrome moly suspension parts on the street limited by metal fatigue. Okay. I personally do not use chrome moly on suspension pieces. It's for a number of reasons. First of all, it's more expensive. It takes far more labor hours to put together. And chrome moly under certain impacts will crack. I use chrome moly like 4130 for like on the SN95 front sway bar. Makes a great sway bar, but I don't use it for suspension pieces. I know a lot of people do because they think it's cool. I just don't. I don't use chrome moly for suspension and don't like it. There's always a chance. And I don't know if Art's with us this morning, but he went through a whole great big thing one time about why not to use chrome moly. Maybe we can have him on next week. Tell us why not. Art.
Art?
I think it was Art.
Yeah, Art.
Yeah, we have Art on next week to talk about why you don't use chrome moly. That's a good question. I like that question. Thank you.
Yeah, he's one of the Speed Therapy Academy alumni members. Okay, we also have, again, there's real strong feeling in this audience, I can tell. Buddy Stogie told us that he's in less than a minute, he sent the communications to support the RPM Act to both my senators and my congressmen. That was quick. Again, you need to try.
It's really easy. It's quick and easy.
Yeah, very, very easy. I'm trying to find the link again. Okay, so the next question is Ernie has a question. He goes, why do you...
Oh, we're going to talk about Buddy Stogie's car next week.
Oh, yeah. Buddy Stogie is a key word for...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're putting it back together now. It's if anybody's ever taken a race car apart and putting it back together, you know how much work it is. So we're working furiously. But this is it's a cool car because it's got... I was able to get the last Daytona prototype engine from Roush Yates, from a friend of mine that runs the engine program. And I'll talk about what a cool motor that is next week. But it's supposed to be modular. Like I said, the block is like nothing I've ever seen, like no 4.6 block I've ever seen. Okay.
Okay, and here we go. Ernie, why do you grease fittings and not a sealed end on the control arm?
Greased fittings.
Yeah, why do you grease a grease a fitting and not a sealed end on the control arm?
Well, if you did a sealed end the control arm, you got to remember the control arm is moving up and down. You know, it's kind of like rotating up and down. It's got to have movement. I think you could do a seal bearing. I think it'd be kind of expensive, but urethane and a pin. I mean, it works really good, and it's cost effective. And if you grease it, I will say one thing: if you are running urethane parts on your car, at some point, if you start to hear a squeak, I can tell you that what's happened is the grease has gone dry and a little bit of dust has got in there. All you need to do is take it apart, clean it off, re-grease it, put it back together, and squeak goes away.
Well, that's a good tip.
Yep.
Okay, Roy.
That goes to like a lot of sway bars with urethane bushings. They'll pick up a squeak and people don't understand it. Just take it apart, clean the bushing, clean the sway bar, put fresh grease in, put it back together, squeak done.
Rory has a question. Is there any way to find out if I'm missing a component from a kit of yours via serial numbers? I think via serial numbers just mainly tells you what product it is.
Yeah, each product is serialized individually.
But the kits are not serialized.
Yeah, the kits themselves aren't serialized. I mean, if you want to know, if you just call in and ask us, this is what you got, is there something missing? And we can fill you in. But each individual component has its own serial number. We don't serialize the kits.
Okay, we also have, here's us. People are looking for the SEMA link. I'm just going to post it right here. Again, it's SEMA.org/EPA-news. Click on that right now while you're listening to Kenny, and we can continue on. This is the last call for questions. Looks like we've gone through most of them. Ernie and Roy at 10, please. I'm checking one more.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
We got all three questions.
Yeah, we did. So again, the 3-day workshop, Transform Your Driving Experience workshop, is on March 6th through the 8th, and it's worth attending. Make sure you register and join the Speed Therapy Society, because that's where it will be shown. It'll be live Facebook production, and Kenny is going to talk about
transforming your driving experience.
Can you give them a little bit more about what you're going to talk about?
Oh, they got to come and say.
Okay.
Also, along those lines, we are going to do another Speed Therapy Academy that's going to start sometime in April.
Yep.
I mean, it's if you really want to learn this stuff, please, sign up for the Academy. I go into a really big depth on all the subjects I talk about in Cars and Coffee. It's kind of like I pull a plug out and kind of empty my brain out and tell you as much as I can. It's pretty cool. Well, it's like they call them immersion sessions. It's just typically Tuesday and Thursday evening, and I'll take one subject and we'll just dive into it deep. That's why we call it immersion. And then there's always kind of like a PowerPoint that goes with it, where that PowerPoint lives in the resource section, so the Academy members can go back anytime and review what we talked about, because nobody ever remembers everything the first time through. So I think the video and the PowerPoint are there. The only PowerPoint that doesn't show up is when I talk about suspension geometry, because I talk about some really confidential things on suspension geometry, and we just don't put that in writing. I just want to keep it just kind of like between us, because there's nobody in the aftermarket does Mustang suspension geometry like I do. Anybody's driven one of my cars can attest to that.
Yeah, and then I think, let's see. Okay, so anyway, yes, I don't have the exact date, and I can't look from where I am, but it's the third week in April. The Academy is starting. It's a 16-week course, and we will also have experts from the industry talking.
Oh, yeah, it's the other thing, too. We also bring in what we call masterclass. Where I know a lot of people in the industry, and we'll bring in people that on a specific subject, their level of expertise. We had Ben on safety. We had Steve on wheels.
Hardware.
We had, I can't remember the name, Hardware.
Yeah, Eric on Hardware.
Eric on Hardware.
Driving.
We had
Coach,
Doug on driving. So no, we're going to try to get more this year.
And then we also have a couple comments on the cat. This must be one of the Academy members. Academy is awesome. Smart money is spent on time, learning, and planning. And the ultimate goal out of there is to learn how to adjust your car, why things happen.
The ultimate goal is, first of all, to understand how the car works. All the different systems, how the car works, the suspension. We spent 2 weeks on aero last time, on aerodynamics. We talked about aerodynamics. And aerodynamics, if once you kind of know the basics, it's easy to understand how aerodynamics works, and you can look at your car and say, oh, I can fix that. And the whole idea is, by the time you're done, you can prepare your car for the track like you've never prepared before. You can show up at the track, and you can tune your car yourself, and you can turn up like you're the pro from Dover. That's an expression we used to have back when I was a kid in the East Coast. Show up like the pros from Dover, and then you don't have to listen to everybody else in the paddock. Remember, the two worst places to get information about your car is the internet and the paddock. But everybody in the paddock has got an idea based on their itsy teeny bit of knowledge they have, and they try to propound it on everybody. But I can tell the information you get in the paddock is 9.8 times out of 10 not really accurate. So all of a sudden, you're going to be the guy people are coming to. And when they do, you're going to be able to answer their questions with the real answer, not something somebody read and told to somebody else.
You have the confidence that your car.
So, and then the also thing, the last couple of weeks we do is we do driving analysis and coaching. We're members, the Academy people send in their driving videos, and we'll go through and we'll talk about driving tips. I'll make suggestions on how I would drive to see if we can improve their driving. So that's kind of like at the very end, after we've learned everything about the car, how everything works, how to make everything work, then we go through and do the driving stuff. And
the Transform Your Driving Experience workshop is just kind of like a primer to that. Anyway, Dale says he's already sent in his letters to the RPM Act. Super easy, even for this computer challenge geezer. So
there you go.
Let's see how many people can sign up today for that, and spread the word. Send that email to other people.
Yeah, everybody you know that's a car guy, please send it out. We need to really get on top of this. Okay. Yeah, like Cliff said, either we act or the government does, and I don't like what the EPA is trying to do. It's not right. They have no idea. I mean, they're little people living with little cubicles, and that's what their life is.
Okay, that's
okay. That's what we wrapped up.
Yeah, next
wrapped
week.
Up on time. And next week we're going to get into Angie's question. Preparing for the track and things to check. We've got checklists and everything. I think we may have posted some up, and then we're going to see if we can get Art in to talk about why not to use chromoly.
Okay.
Because he's a lot of experience. He go drag cars. I mean, he's got tons of experience. So actually, we're going to end up pretty much on time today. Yeah. I can't believe it. That's a good thing. So next week, don't forget. We'll talk a little bit about Roy's AX CSR Cobra with my Daytona prototype engine in it, which is actually it's a hybrid Daytona prototype / FR500. And I'll explain what that means. So anyway, well, listen, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming. And tell your friends, share. And certainly for those that are watching afterwards, share with your friends. And because this next week's going to be pretty good. This week was pretty good. Next week's going to be pretty good. They're all pretty good.
Pat yourself on the back.
And like I say, I try to answer your questions and tell you what I know. I talked about what you want to learn about. And the thing is, with me, I've got an engineering brain, and I'm just really not capable of BS. So if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you. If I do, I'm going to tell you. If I don't know something, I'll tell you I don't know. I might tell you where you can find the information. So, that's anybody knows me. I'm a pretty straight up guy. I just don't. I can't. My brain doesn't work in the BS category. So, well, listen. Thank you for joining us. It's been kind of a great day. It's sun shining here in Indianapolis. I hope it's shining where you are. Still a little chilly, but I think we get better weather. Oh no, it's going to rain all next week.
Okay. Go
Rain's
on.
better than snow. Anyway,
You're rambling.
we'll